More.
Okay, ready to rumble.
We're ready to do our feelers reader.
Okay, here we go. I call this meeting to order. Please stand and join me for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this March 21st, 2023 meeting of the County Board of Commissioners. It's great to see everyone, and thank you for joining us. With that, I would be open to a motion to approve the agenda. We do have a change under the consent point of procedure. Do I change that now, or do I change it with the consent?
Chair, you have either option available.
Okay, then I will suggest that change now. Under consent agenda number 3.16 will be pulled to be dealt with individually following the consent, and we will just be clarifying the start time of our public forum for that item, because we have an evening meeting coming up. So that is the only change I've heard of. So with that change, if there aren't others, I'd be open to a motion.
I would move that we accept the agenda as stated.
Commissioner Felber moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Halls. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to the open forum, item number 2. Ms. Keisha Erickson, are there any people signed up?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have 3 people signed up.
Okay.
Our first speaker is Steve Fuchs with Big Lake, speaking on public safety.
Okay, great. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, everybody. Today is what, the second day of spring?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, good. What I want to talk about this morning is public safety. I think all of you realize what's going down in the legislature. As of this morning, there's little over 5,000 bills that have been introduced. And one of these bills, I think all of us should be very, very concerned about, and that is Senate File Number 1723. Now, Senate File Number 723 states that all firearms in Minnesota have to be registered. All, okay? It states that if you own a firearm every year, or you have to have a physical test, every year you have to have a mental test, you have to have liability insurance. It states that you have to have training, which I have no problem with training, okay? It bans open carry of any firearm, making it a crime. It forces you to lock up your firearm in an approved safe, and that approved firearm locked up, you cannot have it loaded, and you have to have your ammunition far away from that safe. And it creates a database for every firearm and firearm owner in Minnesota. These are the top 10. There's at least 6 to 7 more items that, no big deal. Now, along with that, there are 4 House files. One of them is universal gun registration, that's House File Number 14, House File Number 15, which is the red flag confiscation. There's House File Number 396, which is safe storage, which is similar to the Senate. There's House File Number 601, which makes a victim a criminal. And this has been going on for about a month. There are 77 sheriffs that oppose this. The ACLU is opposing it. 6 counties have signed to be a sanctuary county. And myself and several other people here this morning are requesting Sherburne County to become number 7. That we need to protect our constitutional rights. The reason these 77 sheriffs, including Sherburne County Sheriff, oppose this is that by banning us, we're creating a safety issue for you and I. We can no longer protect ourselves. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steve.
Sorry. Our next speaker is Eric Bowe, also of Big Lake, speaking on public safety.
Hi, my name is Eric Bowe, and I live at 22207 185th Street Northwest in Big Lake. And thank you all, first of all, for all of your time and service to the job that you do. Really appreciate that. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be here today. I don't have all the fancy statistics like Steve does, but I have the same passion that he has, and that's why I'm here today. And I've written a number of you about this same issue. And I'm here today to ask you to consider declaring Sherburne County a Second Amendment sanctuary. Because I believe it's misguided that the additional laws and legislations will reduce gun crimes. Rather, they infringe on the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens like myself and probably most folks here today. You know, as Steve said, there's more than 60 county sheriffs that have opposed this legislation, including Sheriff Brott of Sherburne County. The ACLU has expressed their concerns about this legislation and the impact on Minnesota's civil liberties. And the other 6 counties that Steve also brought up have already declared themselves Second Amendment sanctuaries as a result. I think it's misguided to say we should make cars more difficult to steal and that will mitigate crime. I think the only way you mitigate crime is you address the criminals and the crimes they commit. And so I don't feel like coming after law-abiding citizens is going to solve any kind of a gun problem or a gun law or anything like that. We already have laws on the books that address gun safety, and I don't think that we need any more at this time, especially the ones that are as dangerous as these are. So again, I'm here today to voice my opposition to these additional laws and legislation. I hope that each of you will stand up for the rights of law-abiding citizens and declare Sherburne County a Second Amendment sanctuary. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
Our third speaker is Ron Hirsch of Becker, speaking on County Road 93.
Hello again. I'm Ron Hirsch. I live out in Becker Township. I see a couple faces that I'm familiar with, and the rest are sort of new, so sorry. I'm here just to touch base again. I noticed I missed the last meeting where they started to set forth a procedure, and I'm just asking the commission and the board and the commissioners to please do your own research, ask a lot of questions. I'm telling you, those MnDOT manuals and state statute books are just boring as all get out. But I have a lot of hours delving into this. And although you're being given prudent advice, it's not technically, doesn't have to be done the way it's being suggested. So I'm just hoping you all look into it, ask a few questions. Feel free to contact me or anybody else that you know. And again, just trying to stay in the loop here, and thanks for letting me speak, and hopefully we hear from some of you in the future. Thanks.
Thanks, Ron.
That is all for those who are signed up.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thanks for those that spoke this morning. Moving on to item number 3, our consent agenda. We do have that one change that I indicated, polling number 16, moving that to the end. We'll deal with that after the consent. Other than that, I've heard of no changes, so I'd be open to a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of item number 16 for separate consideration.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Danielowski. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Falber. With that change, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Moving on to agenda item 3.16, that was pulled from the consent. Being that our next meeting will be an evening meeting, there's been a recommendation that we clarify and change that start time listed to 7 PM or soon thereafter.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Okay, there's Commissioner Danielowski moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Gray. Any questions or comments? And this is your first reminder that our next board meeting will be an evening meeting, the first meeting in April. So, hearing no questions or comments, all in favor of that change, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion has carried. Thank you. Moving on to agenda, that of announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Just a few couple announcements in terms of correspondence and calendar call. Just a note for future board meetings on workshops. We're also tracking, if you just want to note on your agenda, the request to do a housing workshop sometime in the near future to talk about the county's role in housing. And then we did promise we'd get back to you a little bit more with budget discussion in April. In addition, just a note also to highlight for the community as well as the board, the Soil and Water Conservation District is hosting the We Are Water grand public opening coming up on the 22nd, so tomorrow at from 3 to 7 p.m. Would encourage anybody who's available to go over there. I know a couple commissioners were able to make the pre-opening discussion a couple of weeks ago, and it was really very, I think, helpful. Also, just a couple of notes on transportation. Of course, we are now going from snowplow season to pothole season. So would ask the community's patience as Andrew and his crews get out as quickly as they can. But commissioners and public, if you identify any significant potholes, if you would just please call Public Works and let them know locations. We do not have pothole police, but we do try to get out as quickly as we can and address the more major issues across the county.
Madam Chair, I have a question on that, real quick. Do we know when the asphalt plants are opening up? Because right now they're just using cold patch, which doesn't last, so,
That's correct. They still are using cold mix. I don't know the date, but I'll get it for you and send it out.
okay.
Yeah, I don't know when the batch plants are firing up. I haven't heard a specific date. And then the last note was just a little bit on legislation. We are tracking multiple bills that are going on at the state legislature. The ones that are in terms of county priorities, just a very quick update. County program aid is progressing through, and there's a possibility we may see an increase in that. The governor actually increased his recommendation, which is still far less than what AMC is recommending and LMC for city aid. But it is in play. Also on Friday, the community corrections bill was laid over for possible inclusion, which would include additional funding for community corrections programs. And then, of course, if you've been tracking the bonding bill, we did have our Zimmerman overpass in the House bonding bill, which passed, but it failed in the Senate. So now it's back to rebuilding the whole bonding bill. So we're tracking that very closely. I do have a couple of requested letters of support that are consistent either with AMC's positions or the county's positions. If I can bring them to board meetings, I will. If they're time sensitive, I will just do them administratively as long as they're consistent with those positions. And with that, I'll ask if there's any questions you have on legislative activities.
Yeah, I would just agree with anything that we can do to support what is traveling through in the bonding bill and those other issues, if we can send something in to encourage that.
Yeah, and if I'd broaden that, I'd probably do that for just the general support for transportation funding. An example of another letter, Gina asked for permission to a letter of support for Lassard Sam's dedicated funding, and so we're putting that together as well. And it's consistent with the county's program of supporting parks, and it's not conflicting with our old goals of funding the park itself. Yep. Good, and that's it for report.
Okay, any other announcements? We have another time later in the meeting when we share our reports, so moving on to agenda, there's a item number 4.1. This came into your packets. There are a few committees that have been requested by commissioners. So in your packet, you saw there's one for an energy transition committee as well as an elections committee. And I, trying to keep everyone involved and also obey open meeting laws, have made a recommendation that Commissioner Felber and Commissioner Gray be appointed to the Energy Transition Committee, and Commissioner Danielowski and Commissioner Halls be appointed to the Elections Committee. So be open to conversation about that or a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to mention, I did have a discussion with Bruce on this. I would probably like to also attend, not necessarily be assigned to the Energy Committee, but I'd like to attend those. That could potentially put 3 of us there, so we may have to post for those meetings.
Okay.
But I would be very interested in attending those as well.
Okay. Okay. So those, if that happens, we will post for those. Okay, so we'd be open to a motion to appoint the following commissioners to the following ad hoc Board of Commissioners committees.
Madam Chair, I would move that we make those appointments.
Commissioner Falber moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Gray seconds. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Thank you. Moving on to the regular agenda, item number 5.1, considering today to approve a proclamation of March as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. Mr. Tony Masters joining us. And Tony, if you would, since you may be a new face to some at this table, if you could just say who you are and what you do for the county, that would be great.
Right. Good morning, Commissioners, Madam Chair. I am Tony Masters. I am a Social Service Manager for the Adult and Disability Services Division in Health and Human Services, which covers developmental disabilities, CAT-CADI BI waivers, adult protection, adult mental health, elderly services, as well as MinChoices, which is a screening tool for a variety of programs within our agency.
Thank you.
So I apologize, Christine Bernier, our developmental disability supervisor, is going to be here today with me, but she did send some words that she wanted me to read to the group here. So today I'm here to request that the county board recognize March of 2023 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month here in Sherburne County. In 1987, President Ronald Reagan recognized March as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month to increase public awareness of the needs and potential of Americans with developmental disabilities and to provide the encouragement and opportunities they need to lead productive lives to achieve their full potential. Approximately 1% to 2% of Minnesotans have a developmental disability. In the disability services area within Health and Human Services here at Sherburne County, we support about 659 community members and their families who have a developmental disability. As we are all aware, we are facing a significant labor shortage in our state. Unfortunately, people with developmental disabilities are significantly impacted by this, which is leading to increased injuries, hospitalizations of people with developmental disabilities. Staff vacancy rates at centers for adults with disabilities are the highest they have been in decades. And the worker shortage has real-life impacts on our community members with developmental disabilities. Our family, friends, neighbors, and community members with developmental disabilities bring a significant amount of joy to our community and those that they surround themselves with. It is important that we continue to provide recognition and active support to our community of folks with developmental disabilities. We thank each of our individuals with developmental disabilities for their contributions to our community, and we also thank their family members, friends, providers, social workers, and loved ones for ensuring that people with developmental disabilities have the opportunities and support needed to reach their goals and dreams. We are grateful for the opportunity to bring increased awareness about developmental disabilities, and we welcome you to join us in celebrating the month of March as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. I'll move into the proclamation. Whereas a greater number of individuals with developmental disabilities are living in less restrictive community settings rather than institutional settings, and whereas various employment opportunities seek to promote the highest level of independence and success for individuals with developmental disabilities, and whereas family members, friends, community members, professionals, and other informal supports play an important role in enhancing the lives of individuals with developmental disabilities. And whereas children with disabilities, physical, developmental, intellectual, emotional, and sensory disabilities are at an increased risk of being bullied. And whereas the needs of individuals with developmental disabilities will be better understood through increased awareness of supportive programs and services available. And whereas Sherburne County has dedicated individuals and organizations who work daily to increase independence, inclusion, and self-advocacy for individuals with developmental disabilities. And whereas community-based services that respond to individual and family needs are cost-effective and beneficial to consumers and the public. And whereas Sherburne County has made a commitment to foster and encourage independence and consumer choice for individuals with developmental disabilities. Now, therefore, the County Board of Commissioners do hereby, I might not be supposed to read this part, but do hereby proclaim March 2023 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. It reads as if it's something the county board should be reading, but.
That's okay. That's great. Thanks, Tony. So any questions or comments? Okay, I would be open to a motion to approve the proclamation of March and celebrate March as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Danielowski. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Gray. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I just want you to thank our staff for their work on behalf of people that live in our county with disabilities. So, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Thanks, Tony. Item number 5.2, receive an update on Midco broadband activities within Sherburne County. Mr. Dan Weber, along with Ms. Melissa Wolf. Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Over the last several years, we've developed a really good partnership with Midco, and we filled a lot of gaps in the area, and I asked Midco Representative Ms. Melissa Wolf to come and give us an update on all the projects that are taking place in Sherburne County. Thanks, Melissa.
Is this the clicker? Sorry, okay. Well, thank you guys so much. I am Melissa Wolf. I'm the Government Relations Manager with Midco. Recognize some of you, last time I think I was here was 2 years ago, I think March of 2021. So I was looking at the map that I provided you then and the map that I have in our presentation today, and it's very exciting to see all of the progress that's been made, and then with the investments that you guys have made through your ARPA dollars, what's coming. So I'll kind of quickly go through these first couple of slides and get to the end to just talk about kind of recapping what we've done in Sherburne County the last couple of years and then what we have moving forward. But before I start, just again want to say thank you to this board for your investment in approving those ARPA broadband dollars to several of Midco's projects. And thank you to Dan for really the partnership, like he mentioned. It's been a joint effort on all fronts. And we really appreciate your confidence in Midco. And as you'll see, or hopefully you'll see here on the next couple of slides, really your investment with those dollars has made our investments go much, much further and has really accelerated these projects. So this slide just really briefly talks about our fiber network. We have over 13,000 owned fiber network miles, which is the largest owned fiber network in the region. Along with that almost 100% guaranteed core reliability. Just what I like to highlight here is that we provide those redundant fiber rings in both rural and urban areas, so that you know within your county, if there's ever an issue with a fiber cut somewhere, that traffic is automatically rerouted to a redundant ring, and hopefully your residents and businesses will never actually see an impact from that. And along with that, we do have our 24/7, 365 monitoring and support from our Network Operations Center, which is located in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And they are watching our network and anything that could impact our network, from weather, you name it. And so hopefully we will know if there's ever an issue before any of your residents do. Okay, there we go. This is actually something that was new since the last time I've been here, so I did want to mention this, that in July of 2021, we announced our Fiber Forward initiative. So with that, It was a $500 million investment that we are making in our network to really transform not only our existing network, but expand our robust fiber network. So with that announcement that we made, we announced that all of our new builds starting in 2021 are fiber directly to the premise. Our goal is to deliver 10G speeds by 2030 over that network and really bring that increased reliability, performance, and be able to support whatever's next in revolutionary innovations and technology, no matter where you live. Right now, our fiber network is capable of 5 gigabit symmetrical speed. With that, we also announced that our existing hybrid network, which is that kind of typical fiber to a neighborhood or a curb, and then coaxial cable to your home, we would also be upgrading those areas. In some cases, we are overbuilding ourselves with fiber to the premise, and in other cases, we're doing mid and high split increases, which will increase not only that download speed, but also that upload speed over that network. This I'd just like to mention, obviously very important. We take our commitment to the communities that we serve very seriously. We do have a Midco Foundation that we do 2 grant rounds each year. I think our current grant round is actually closing here in just a couple of days on the 24th, but we'll have another one open in August, and we'll make announcements in the fall for those grant awardees. But we've given back over $5 million to the communities we serve, and I just really encourage you, if within your communities, if there are any opportunities for to submit a grant to our foundation, please do so. It's a really easy application online. If you have any questions, let me know, but it's up to a $5,000 grant for those communities, and we've funded YMCAs, schools, fire departments, you name it. So please keep us in mind for anything within your communities. To toot our own horn a little bit, just like to mention that we have been awarded or ranked #1 in customer satisfaction for residential internet for the North Central region 2 years in a row. So again, another way that we want to make sure that we're taking care of the communities we serve, and that is through that customer support. We have local service technicians and teams that are local to your area. We hire within the areas that we serve so that they can respond hopefully within a decent amount of time. And then we have business-specific field techs. And then, like I said, 24/7 support from both of our operations center in Fargo and Sioux Falls. And you can get in touch with our customer support team through multiple channels, Twitter, chat, calling, email, all that. So this is what I would like to highlight a little bit to kind of look back in the past with Sherburne County and Midco projects. Sherburne County has really been at the heart of our growth strategy. And this started with our investment in 2020 in our Princeton, Becker, Zimmerman, or what we called our PBZ project. We laid in 2020 over 1 million feet of broadband infrastructure throughout the county and connected over 5,300 passings throughout that PBZ build. It was one of the most successful expansion projects completed by Midco and remains so today. We have throughout that project almost 50% penetration, which is huge, very significant. And then continuing on with our investment in 2020, in 2021 we participated in the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, or the RDOF auction, through the federal government, and we focused heavily on Sherburne County and committed to bidding in this county to continue that expansion. We received over $893,000 to connect over 1,600 passings, and I'll just stop there and say a passing can be a home, a business, any location that can be served. And that was over a 10-year period that we'll receive. It's an ongoing, and we have continued to, we've started building those RDOF passings and we'll continue to do so over the next couple of years. In 2021, we continued our build in Big Lake Township, what we called Bailey, Becker Township, Briggs Lake, and Palmer Township, and all of that was, again, that fiber directly to the premise, which is capable of 5 gig symmetrical speeds. That year, we connected about 950 passings, and we also entered into a conduit lease with the county, which I'm sure you are all very familiar with. But just again to highlight that that was another important step in a partnership with the county. It's significant savings when we don't have to open up and put our own conduit in, and especially in areas where we might need some extra fiber or have a fiber pinch. So that was significant for us to continue building in the county. And then in 2022, we focused on Clear Lake Township and Baldwin Township. Again, those were fiber to the premise builds, 659 passings. You can see, nearly 240,000 feet of fiber infrastructure. That included some of those RDOF areas and then our own private capital. And I should mention, if you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to interrupt me. So the exciting part then is, obviously with those ARPA dollars coming down over the last really year and a half probably that Dan and I have been talking about ARPA and broadband, we now have our county expansion plans for 2023 and 2024, and a lot of that is those ARPA projects that you all approved. So for 2023, we have ARPA areas that we're doing, RDOF, and some private capital projects. And this will all make sense at the last slide when you can see the map. But for 2023, where we will be building is in Livonia Township, Santiago, Becker, Big Lake, and Orac Townships. It'll be a total of about 1,700 passings. And again, you can see, 672,000 fiber feet that we'll be putting in those townships. For 2024, we have more RDOF and some private capital projects in Santiago and Palmer Townships for another, almost 500 passings that we'll be connecting next year. Just kind of recapping the projects that you approved in round one of your broadband grant program, we were approved for Livonia, Becker, and Santiago Townships, and round two was Livonia, Blue Hill, and Orac Townships. For round two projects, those are all going to be completed in 2023. Those were some smaller line extensions, trying to fill in gaps where we had service. And then the round one projects, again, as you'll see on the next screen, will also all be completed in 2023. Just kind of recapping, I think it's helpful to put into perspective just how much these are costing and what your investment made possible. The total Midco project, or total project costs were over $2 million. Midco put in just over $1 million, the county put in $902,000, and the township contribution ended up being $15,000. And then I just wanted to highlight here again to just say, that Sherburne County is really at the heart of our growth strategy. From 2022 and looking ahead with these projects through 2024, Midco will be connecting over 9,900 passings. Our total investment in the county over the last 4 years or through 2024 will be, over $32 million with those ARPA funds that you and your townships have provided. And then the RDOF funds, we're looking at a total Midco investment of just over $31 million in the county for the last 4 years. Again, this is something we're really excited about, and we look forward to continuing that investment beyond 2024 as well. So thank you guys and your staff for just an excellent partnership. And then I just wanted to mention, again, all of our builds here are going to be fiber to the premise. We have a couple of different service packages or offerings, 100 over 100. With that fiber, it's all symmetrical, so that would be our lowest. That package is $30. And we also are a participating provider in Lifeline in the Affordable Connectivity Program. So if you do have residents that are eligible for that ACP credit, they can get that 100 over 100 package, which is $30 for free. They can also use that ACP credit and apply it to any of our other service tiers that would just be deducted then from that service tier package. We also have phone and video, of course. So this is an updated map, and I know there is a lot going on this map, so I'll try to kind of walk through what we have going on here. It's a little bit difficult to see, but the purple areas with the red fiber, those are all of our current service territories. You can kind of see the Princeton, Becker, or the PBZ build that we did in 2020, which is up in the right-hand corner of the county. That would be our kind of our HF network, and then you can see where we've done more recent builds since 2021, where there is a lot of red. That is the fiber directly to the premise. I'll highlight quickly the first the ARPA projects that you guys all funded that we'll be completing this year. We have a large one in Livonia Township, so it's the shaded yellow, and the blue is the proposed fiber lines. So anywhere you see that, we have Becker, Santiago, and then some other smaller areas in Livonia Township. Those are the line extensions. And then we have Orac as well, and Blue Hill. So they're all kind of scattered out throughout there. You can see the orange hatched is our RDOF areas. So it's kind of hard to see because a lot of these overlap here, but, and then the pink is going to be our future service. And I just want to highlight then the pink that is shaded in the blue, that kind of large area in Becker and Santiago Township. That is our 2023 project area that we'll be doing this year. The green that is on top of that, the pink that is outlined in the green, that is Santiago and Palmer Townships, and that will be our 2024 project area. So again, just want to highlight that we've, with your investment through ARPA, we've been able to build upon what we submitted for that grant application, and add more and extend it much further than we would have been able to without that investment from the board. So we are really looking forward to it. You'll see us a lot out this year and next year. And again, just want to say thank you guys so much for all your confidence in Midco, and we're looking forward to continuing this. I'm really excited to see what Sherburne County will look like 2 years from now as far as served and unserved areas, because I know you've invested in not just Midco, but other companies through your ARPA program, and it's really going to make a dent. So, any questions?
Thanks, Melissa. Any questions or comments?
No, I do not.
These are great partnerships. I want to thank Dan Weber for all of his work. Melissa and him talk often, meet often, and without the partnerships on the federal, state, local level, including our townships, we couldn't be doing this. So this has been a priority of the county since I've been on the board for 6 years, and we've come miles. Literally, we've served miles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions?
Just from standpoint, I worked with Melissa and their team with Clear Lake Township. It's been a fabulous partnership. Clear Lake Township's got expanded greatly in 2022, and their team and their group and their subcontractors have been great to work with.
Okay, great.
Thank you for your partnership as
Yeah.
well. I know it's important for our county to make strides on this, because we all know that this is what the future, well, actually right now, not even the future, but this is what needs to be served now. So we can continue to thrive as a county with our residents and our businesses. So thank you very much for being a part of that process.
Absolutely. So thanks, Melissa. And this was just information only, so there's no action on this item. So thank you
Thank you,
for being
guys.
with us this morning.
One question, Madam Chair, will we be getting the PowerPoint sent to us? Perfect, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5.3. Ms. Gina Hugo, consider and approve a donation for parkland development.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Gina Hugo, Parks Coordinator. This morning, we're asking you to consider accepting a donation in the amount of $7,800 to be used for costs associated with developing the Big Elk Lake land as a nature-based park. The offer comes from a private individual that some of you know, Mr. Bill Bronder of Foley, Minnesota. While Mr. Bronder, or Bill, I can't really call you Mr. Bronder. I know Bill quite well. He's not a Sherburne County resident, but he has invested most of his career implementing conservation efforts throughout the county in 30-plus years as a conservationist with the Sherburne Soil and Water Conservation District. During that time, he set thousands, if not tens of thousands, of wetland boundary flags along county roads to assist in road improvement projects. Also, as a certified wetland delineator, he consulted hundreds of WACA violations through restoration steps in partnership with the Sherburne County zoning staff and other regulatory agencies. He assisted countless agricultural producers with design and installation of conservation practices such as field windbreaks, wildlife plantings, buffer strips, and center pivot calibration, all in the name of protecting ground and surface water while providing critical habitat. He also planted more than 1,000 acres of native prairie on private land. And he began this program long before pollinator conservation and protection were buzzwords in our common language. He also mentored many young conservationists, one of them being me. Bill also knew the previous owner of the Big Elk Lake land, Mr. Howard Weiss. And Bill planted the first acres of native prairie on the land on his day off, by the way. Working on his day off was not uncommon for Bill. He always said that his vocation, his work wasn't just his vocation, it was his avocation. And I'm really glad, we're all very glad that he's here today to speak on behalf of his donation. So I'll invite you to come up, Bill.
Mr. Bronder, whoever that man is. Welcome, Bill.
Wow, thank you, Gina. I'll have to pay you later. Madam Chair and County Board, the real reason that I wanted to donate towards this property is that, as Gina said, I did know Howard and I did plant some prairie out there for him. And I know he was kind of a difficult person, but the property itself, he was very proud of that property. And I know the property is historically significant, both pre-settlement, pre-European settlement, and post-European settlement. And that the county has chosen to develop it, and I think the county board, both this board and the previous board, should really be commended for taking on that decision or taking on that the development of the property. And I'm sure that working together with the tribal communities, all the different federal, state, and local communities, is just that process in itself is going to be quite enlightening to everybody concerned. And I think that the scope of the project and the end product is going to be a benefit not only locally, but will definitely be a benefit beyond the county boundaries. And so I think it's for that reason, it's such a unique project that that's the reason why I would like to donate these funds towards that project, is because it really shows a lot of foresight by the county and by the county board. So
Thanks,
thank
Bill.
you.
Thank you. So I'd be open to a motion to approve the acceptance of a $7,800 donation for use on the costs associated with developing the recently acquired Big Elk Lake land as a nature-based park.
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Gray,
I'll second, Madam Chair.
seconded by Commissioner Danielowski. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you, really.
I'm not sure why we were supposed to consider that.
I'm not either.
It's definitely a very generous donation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to thank you, Bill, for that generous donation and all your generosity over the many years toward our
Well, I
county.
didn't realize it was that much, but
Yes, we have benefit from many years of service to our county, so I really appreciate that, so.
And on another note, I just wanted to mention, and you did a great, by mentoring our Ms. Gina Hugo, you've done an awesome job. We are very blessed to have her on staff.
thank you. Yes, that's what I tell her, you know.
It almost,
you later.
it almost feels like a retirement celebration, but we've had
Yes,
a
I
few
know
of
that.
those. We've had a few of those. We've tried. So, thank you for
Thanks.
everything. No further comment. We have the motion and the second, so all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Thank you. Item number 5.4, moving on to the agricultural inspector, Mr. Mitchell Glines. And
Another
if you
fun
would-
topic. Thank you,
Mitch.
Madam Chair, Commissioners. My name is Mitch Glines. I am a planner in the Planning and Zoning Department. I've also been the County Ag Inspector for the last 5 years. I'm seeking for you to consider and approve my reappointment. It is an unfunded state mandate that we are required to do and be appointed by the county board, and for the county board to approve the 2023 work plan. In the packets, I hope you did get, I kind of did an overview of the 2022 notes, and then the 2023 work plan. 2022, I did approximately 118 hours with that role. It's only about 7% of the job that I do as a planner. The ag inspector is about 7%. It's not a significant amount, but it is a required role that we are to have. In 2023, proposed 121 hours in that role. I can just go over a quick overview. Again, you know, a couple of you have seen me in the years past, but with the new board, we just want to get in front of you, kind of give you an overview of what this role entails. For administration, approximately 40 hours. Just serve as the point of contact for noxious weed issues in Sherburne County. I complete the annual ag inspector report. Basically, at the end of each year, I send a annual report out to the cities and townships. They'll provide that back to me for what they've spent for controlling noxious weeds, how many miles, how many acres. I take that information along with what I get from Public Works. I submit that to the MDA. MDA would like to know what is being done at the local level for funding at the state level. For seed sampling, I work with the MDA. They do have someone come out, and we do collect seed at certain co-ops or retail stores. Approximately 10 hours, just a couple of days, we go out, pull the seed, they send it to St. Paul, they test it. This isn't any kind of an enforcement thing for the co-ops. We're just making sure that the seed that's going out to the farmers doesn't have, that it's labeled right. If it's not labeled right, then the seed dealer will work with the co-op. So again, it's not like we're out there to try to get anyone in trouble. We're just making sure that, again, the farmers are getting the correct seed. Continued training, about 40 hours. Quarterly, I meet with District 2. That's Minnesota Association of County Ag Inspectors. We did meet in Ogilvie regularly until COVID hit. We do have people that are up in Cook County, so virtual is a lot easier for them now. So we'll continue to do that. The annual short course is more of a continued training, is in Crookston this year. And then for the noxious weed inspections, control, and education, it's about 31 hours. Available to take tours with the township. So basically with me at the county level, I'm the county ag inspector, but then the city's mayors and then the township supervisors, those are the local weed inspectors for their jurisdiction. And so I'll be at the Association of County Township, or the Association of Township meeting in April. Each year, the Noxious Weed Advisory Committee reviews the weeds. This year, there's 8 more weeds, so I'll work with the local weed inspectors at the township meeting, letting them know what to be on the lookout for. Usually, these are on the prohibited eradicate, so they're not known to be in the state, but they are something to be on the lookout for. We do articles in Environmental Educator. We got a web page on our planning and zoning website, kind of links to the weed identification, MDA. So trying to get as much as we can out there for them, but again, usually when weeds are in the right of way or on a property, they're not aware of them. We just work with them to get them taken care of. Other than that, do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for the noxious weed inspector? And our township supervisors must know about this. So
Have any of you had the privilege of being a weed inspector?
I can't say
One.
I have.
Andrew, it's not on the top of your list? No.
Yeah, can't say I have, but I'm glad that Mitch does it and Mitch enjoys it, so.
Yes.
And vitally important.
Vitally, and I also want you just to grab one little statement that this is mandated
Yes.
and not paid for by the
right.
state. So one of those on our long list of mandates.
Have to say, having served 6 years as the weed inspector, the appointed weed inspector for Big Lake, you definitely made the job easier.
Yes.
So we appreciate that.
I appreciate that, thanks. Yeah, we're always here. We have a great relationship with the MDA too. They are always available. They are not a state agency that, you know, is an enforcement on us. They are very much a partner with us.
And you can all now add this to your list of what does a county commissioner do, so.
Just a,
Your missile.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Mitch, just a quick question, maybe more for education and for the community. Can you explain the rational nexus of where your role ends with respect to some of our water-borne noxious weeds like Eurasian milfoil and starwort?
Yep, so the county ag inspector is strictly terrestrial. We are, anything below the ordinary high or DNR, that's the DNR's regulation. So any above land is what we, county ag inspector.
And do we have a local contact, like, you know, you're our ag inspector, is there a person that people contact locally for waterborne plants?
I would ask Zach, Dan.
That'd be the
Sawalka,
SWCD.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Then we would be open to a motion to approve the reappointment of Mitch Glines as County Agriculture Inspector and approve the proposed 2023 work plan.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Danielowski,
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
seconded by Commissioner Felber. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried.
Thank you,
Thanks, Mitch.
commissioners. Thanks.
Thanks for your work. Moving on to agenda item number 5.5, that of considering approval of groundwater sampling at Vanco, Vanco 2, Becker Ash Landfill, and the Elk River Landfill. Mr. Dave Lucas.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. So as stated in the request for board action, landfills are required to conduct groundwater sampling in accordance with Minnesota rules and the county's solid waste management ordinance. Individual state permits for the facilities and county licenses establish specific monitoring parameters such as metals, volatile organics, and general chemistry. Intervention limits are established, which are typically 1/4 of a Minnesota Department of Health risk limit. That's for drinking water standards. And exceedances of intervention limits can lead to corrective action towards groundwater remediation. So the department is recommending having Houston Engineering provide for groundwater monitoring at selected wells at the 4 landfills in the county for purposes of verification. We've done this in the past where we have gone out and split samples. That's where the landfill themselves will collect the groundwater sample, and then we have our consultant there to split the sample. We take that sample to our lab and verify the results. This is a little bit different, where Houston Engineering will be going out there and just selected wells, as stated in further in your RBA packet. They will be collecting the samples and analyzing it. We will be sharing those results with the landfills. If the landfills choose to split with us, they may do so. That's their prerogative. Attached is a scope of services and the agreement for the services to be conducted. The attorney's office has reviewed this scope and agreement and approves as to form. Any questions?
Okay, so I'd be open to a motion to approve the groundwater sampling at Vanco 2, Becker Ash Landfill, and Elk River Landfill not to exceed 12,500, and authorize the solid waste administrator to sign the agreement with Houston Engineering to provide such services.
Madam Chair, I would motion that as stated.
Motion's made by Commissioner Felber. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Commissioner Halls. Any questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion has carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Item number 5.6, to receive, review, and accept the auditor treasurer's monthly report for February 2023. I welcome Ms. Lorraine Rupp. Ms. Diana Arnold isn't able to join us today. And we also have Ms. Sherilyn Kapsner here to assist also. So thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. As you said, Diane is not available today. So I just want to let you know that the property tax statements and the 2023 valuation notices are out and being received by our taxpayers. Our staff are very busy right now fielding phone calls and questions about their taxes and valuations, as I sure each of you are also. Accounting Manager Sherlyn and many other county accounting staff continue to work on gathering information and preparing the financial report for our audit. Clifton Larson Allen will be back on site for a couple of weeks in April to continue with the audit and the financial statement preparation. The township elections were held last week. Diane will be providing you more information on that in next month's report. A copy of the annual town road allotment is included in your report packet. These checks were sent to the townships on February 10th. These funds must be used for the purpose of construction, reconstruction, and gravel maintenance of town roads within each township, and the calculation is based on the township road miles and their population. Diane, Sherlyn, and I prepare your monthly trial balance and investment comparison reports like we have in the past. These reports are prepared on a cash basis of accounting, cash in, income booked, cash out, expense booked. We've looked at different reports that our financial system can generate that will fill the board's request for additional monthly information. The one that best meets your request is included in this packet. And it is up on the board right now. So it is, she's included a budget to actual report by function. This report lists expenditures and revenues as compared to the current year budget, showing the difference variance, the percentage of budget remaining or expended or receipted. This report can only be produced on a modified accrual basis of accounting in our accounting system. Without giving an accounting tutorial, simplistically what this means is the expense is booked when it happens, not paid, and receipts are booked when they're earned, not actually received. For example, a software subscription paid for in February for a year subscription. On cash basis, the entire amount paid would be recorded as an expense. Modified accrual, only 1/12 of that cost would be recorded as an expense in February. The rest would be recorded as a prepaid. In March, another 1/12 would be expensed, the prepaid reduced. This will not greatly affect the information you're receiving from us, as most of the items are really stable from year to year, except in a few areas. The one you're going to most notice on this report is in the general revenue section toward the bottom, in the investment earnings. We did not earn $3.6 million on investments in January and February. Our actual year-to-date earnings are $240,882.65. One of the requirements of generally accepted accounting principles, modified accrual basis, is that investments are brought to market value on our financial statement. With the increase in interest rates in 2022, the market value of our investments declined. This $13.6 million figure is an unrealized loss in the value of our investments on 12/31/22 that needs to be booked for our financial statement. On 1/1 of 23, that journal entry is reversed, so it shows an increase. That's what you're seeing in that dollar amount. I just wanted to, we did not lose that money. We still have our base. It's just a snapshot of the unrealized loss that would have taken place in the county if the county had to liquidate all of their investments to meet the cash needs as of 12/31/22. The county keeps funds liquid to meet our cash flow, so this is very unlikely to happen. Investments are held to maturity unless they're needed for cash flow. The county investments are very short-term, 5 years or less, and it's in the safest investments available. This also reduces the risks of having to sell those investments before maturity. I hope this makes sense to you, but I wanted to really point out that number because it's obviously kind of the elephant in the room, and it will be there until we book the new market value in December of 2023. We are still looking at if there are other reports that our system can generate that will give you better information, but for right now, this is the best that we can find, and again, we are still working to see if we can do better. Okay?
Okay, thanks, Lorraine. Any questions or comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
It is nice to see, though, that the interest rates are finally starting to climb, so there is some money being made on our investments.
Yes.
I know we just did that with our funds, our personal funds, that it's amazing how hungry these banks are for competing.
Correct. And in light of the news lately, you know, we wanted to make sure that you knew what this number was and why it was out there. Again, we generally do not have to sell investments unless it's for cash flow, and we try to do a pretty good job of keeping that amounts that we need liquid so we don't have to. So,
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Halls?
Yeah, so just so I'm clear on a couple of things here. So on the percentage, that's actually percentage remaining of the budget, correct? On the third column on this?
the third column.
Fourth column on this sheet?
So you're looking at the variance or the?
Up toward the expenditures, in the expenditure section.
So the third column, the percentage, that's the percentage of the year's budget, correct?
Budget remaining.
Correct.
That has not been, so.
Yes.
So from that perspective then, that runs from the first of the year through the end of February. That's roughly, so roughly there's 83% of the year remaining. So as a snapshot, we should be seeing approximately by department, approximately 83% of the budget remaining.
If expenses were equal
Linear.
every individual month.
Yeah, if they're
So
linear.
like if you look at the property taxes in the general revenue at the bottom, it shows 0 collected. So there's 100% of that budget left. Even though we're through January and February and, you know, half of March, it's still 100% of that is yet to be collected.
Yep,
So
no, that
yes.
makes sense. Yep, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I think another way to look at it is within each of these account units, there's, I'll use the phrase, a sine curve to historical expenditure patterns, and it's something that we can build over time so you can see that. A good example is Andrew's budget, Public Works, 96% of the budget's remaining. Well, that's because he does most of his work in the summer. So you'd expect it's going to be flat and then a lot of expenditure and then slow down. There's a good training video that the counties and the cities use for like mosquito control. And, you get to May and the city council says, wow, we've got lots of money left in the mosquito control budget. Let's use it for something else. And then it's like, well, wait a minute, we don't start spraying for mosquitoes till June, July, and August. And so it's nothing, a lot, and then you're done. So that budget isn't flat every 12 months, every month it's not the same. And what really is helpful, I think, down the road is for you folks to understand, like general government is 80% remaining after February normal. We would flag that to you now. We don't have it graphically, but The answer is yes. There's a higher expenditure January, February because there's one-time expenses, then it flattens out. The flip is true for Public Works. It's not a lot of expenditure now, but you'll see that burn pretty fast in the summer.
Yeah, Madam Chair, yeah, so we would, what I would normally call that seasonality, based on individual budgets. And if we can build that over time so that we have expected expenditures, for example, by month, and have that, I think that simplifies the view for the board. It may not be possible to be built based on your systems, but I think it's something that we can look for. But at least at this point, it shows us, it gives me a linear view of expenditures versus year remaining.
Yeah, and that's again, that concept of a snapshot. That's why that's so important. And Lorraine pointed that out. Property taxes, you see 0. And that's just simply a function of when we collect them. But the inverse of that is cash flow. When we get to June, we're pretty worried about cash flow, even though we've got a lot of reserves right now because we're spending those reserves down until we get the revenues in. And yet the state auditor will give you a benchmark annually between 30% and 50% is what they want our reserves at of that annual operational cost. And we're fine there. But if you're running at 30%, your cash flow is really lean when it comes to June. So we tend to run closer to that 50%. And yet, that's still a good valid explanation because there's some counties that might have 200%, and they could clearly spend down some of their reserves. And then there's other counties that are running 25%. They don't have enough money to meet payroll. Yeah.
So if I'm understanding your question or your request, is if we could do something like this, that we do a comparison from the previous year, similar to the other reports that we're giving you now, is that something that you feel would be more helpful?
I guess from my perspective, I don't want to make too much work. The entire intent of this was to have to be able to monitor our budgeted expenditures by month and year to date versus actuals.
Okay.
To try to give me a sense of confidence by department that we're within our budgets.
Okay.
That's the intent. This does it. There's a little bit of mental math to be done. To your point, there's seasonality involved that
Right.
doesn't necessarily show. But I think this is this meets the intent of what I was looking for.
Okay.
If there are ways to represent budgets by month versus actuals, that would be great. It's not a requirement on my part because our accounting system may not be capable of doing that.
And we need to explore that. We're looking at all the capabilities of our system beyond what we've used so far. I mean, there may be something out there that we can do better, and we always do want to do better. We want to give you the best information that will work for you. So,
and just to be clear, this is the work to get to this point. I greatly appreciate. So thank you for that.
mhm.
Okay, thank you. So I'd be open to a motion to approve and accept the February 2023 financial report from the Auditor Treasurer's Office.
So moved.
Chair, I move that we accept that.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Halsey and seconded by Commissioner Felber.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
You're done.
It's like a competition up here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lorraine. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Thanks, Sherilyn.
Thank you, Keisha.
Okay, item number 5.7, consider and approve the American Rescue Plan update and recommended approvals and expenditures by Mr. Dan Weber.
This week, we have 2 approval requests under the $50,000 threshold. The first is for a Public Works loader equipment. That's a 20-year-old piece of equipment that the Public Works Department is looking to replace. And secondly is a contracted attorney retainer fee. And I'm going to turn it over to County Attorney Haney to speak about that request.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. In this particular case, we're asking for reimbursement in the sum of $46,200. Last year, as you all know, we were continuing to work on the backlog as we are continuing to do so this year. What had happened was we had lost a seasoned attorney to our neighboring county. As a result of that, we were spread extraordinarily thin. What we ended up doing was contracting with the Elk River City Prosecutor's Office, their firm, to provide coverage for us and some of the calendars because we simply ran out of bodies. We also contracted with a retired county attorney who graciously agreed to come back and work with us as well, bringing his 40-plus years of experience with him, which was wonderful. And so this represents the expenditures that we had from last year through March of this year. And just for your edification, we are continuing to struggle with the backlog and the additional court calendars that the court is placing on us. So I will be going back again to that retired county attorney to ask him to come back again to help us with the calendars because we continue to struggle meeting the demands, as is our bench, to be perfectly honest, because the demands are coming from a higher authority. So.
Okay, so we can take these at one time if the board is okay with that. Expenses under 50,000 would be the 10,270 for the Public Works loader equipment and the 46,200 for the contracted county attorney retainer fee.
Madam Chair, I'll move those two expenses.
Motion made by Commissioner Danielowski. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Felber. Any questions or comments on these? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The next items.
The next item is for two positions in the county attorney's office. These were approved as part of the 2023 budget. The county attorney requested two positions to help soften the levy blow. Staff recommended that we use ARPA funds to feather the impact. So this would be the 2023 ARPA cost. Looking for approval for those two positions to be covered 2/3 through ARPA in 2023.
And we will take these items separate, but this is the 2023 county attorney staffing positions totaling $128,062. So it'd be open for a motion to approve those.
I would motion that we approve that expenditure.
Motion made by Commissioner Felber. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Danielowski. And questions or comments, discussion?
Madam Chair?
Please.
Yeah, just for my clarification, so on the staffing positions, these are existing positions that we're using ARPA dollars to cover for 2023, correct?
They are new positions for 2023. I think one has already been hired and one is in the process of being recruited, correct? So they were included in the 2023 budget at a 1/3 cost. And this is the remainder. Next year, that'll flip-flop, where 2/3 will be in the budget, 1/3 will be covered by ARPA, and then the following year, it'll be 100% levy funded.
So we're looking at a 2025, 100% levy
Correct.
funded.
And this was mentioned in the workshop we had a couple weeks ago when we talked about future ARPA expenses.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. Moving on to the next item, the Public Works snow removal equipment.
And I'm going to turn it over to our Public Works Director to explain this project.
Good morning, Madam Chair, County Board members. If I can take a brief moment and sidetrack just a bit. A hot mix plant nearby is opening tomorrow. So weather dependent, if we're not out clearing snow tomorrow, we will be getting hot mix for the potholes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. You can
Yes.
finally get a pothole fixed. It might last for a little bit.
Correct.
Well,
Correct. So the item before you is for two pieces of equipment for snow removal. What it does is it attaches to the front side of the couple of tractors that we currently have. It's a 3-point hitch, and then a snow blower, essentially, a large size scale snow blower for the front of these tractors, creating a multi-use piece of equipment. Currently, we have one rear-mounted snow blower, which then requires them to drive the piece of equipment in reverse to utilize the snow blower. It's old. we spend a lot of time and there's a lot of downtime fixing that rear-mounted snow blower. So as we continue to develop and grow, if you think about, some people have expressed challenges with simply driving a roundabout with a normal vehicle. Try driving a roundabout backwards in a tractor with snow removal equipment on it. Doesn't work very well. So as we continue to develop and we start seeing some of these urban amenities in our cities, we're seeing a higher desire for ped and bike movements in the wintertime too, so snow clearing in and around our intersections, opening up those sight distances for the vehicles as they're approaching the intersections and traveling through them. So the request is for the two 3-point brackets for the front of the tractor as well as the two snowblower equipment. I should also note that we do utilize these frequently to assist with property maintenance here at the Government Center. You've seen our piles out here. We spent about 3 days last week helping push those piles back with our snow blowers to and remove the snow in case we get any large events here in March, knowing that it's the snowiest month of the year. So I'll open that up for any questions.
Okay, this is a one-time cost, no tails on this one. Public Works snow removal equipment at the total of $101,138. Be open to a motion to approve that or otherwise.
Madam Chair, I'd motion we approve those snow blowers.
Motion's made by Commissioner Felber. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second.
Commissioner Danielowski seconds. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, Andrew, are these Frontier, are they the same one that's pictured in our packet? The snow blower?
They're similar to that. I couldn't tell you if it's the exact one. I just went out on Google, to be honest, and grabbed a photo. So that is the tractor style that we have. I can't guarantee that the snow blower, but it's essentially the same.
Same thing.
Yep.
Okay. And they are the Frontier brand?
Yes, they are. Yep. Sorry, I had to review to my notes.
Are they single stage or dual stage snow blowers?
Dual.
Dual.
Yeah, I think that this is a good purchase, knowing that I've seen a lot of, especially this winter, a lot of like pedestrian areas where they can't get through the amount of snow that is just sitting there. So thank you for being proactive and doing that.
Absolutely.
And going backwards with any piece of equipment is never a safe thing to do.
Correct.
I'm assuming you put this out on bids. Can I ask what the range was?
I don't have that answer, but I can get that for you.
Okay.
So it's a fairly specialized piece of equipment, to be honest, with the hitch system that we have.
Okay.
So normally with this style of equipment, we would purchase it off of a state contract, which was already put out for bids, and it's an approved product.
Okay. All right.
But I'll follow up on that.
Okay.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second, so all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dan. Thanks, Andrew and Dan.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 6 is that of our commissioner correspondence. So what have people been up to these last couple weeks? This takes us back to our last board meeting. And anyone would like to start?
Madam Chair?
Okay.
Sure. So Tuesday, the 7th, I met with the community group for the discussions around property tax increases and election integrity and restoring confidence in the systems. Thursday, met with Congressman Emmer's office, or his legislative director, I'm sorry. Friday, attended investiture for Judge Christy Stanlowski, as many of us did. Saturday, I attended a conference at the American Legion, once again taking constituent questions and those sort of things. That night, we attended the Guardian Angels charity event, which was a very nice program. Thursday, attended the Economic Development Authority meeting. Really like the progress that the Economic Development Authority is making, especially on their 3-year plan. That's coming along very nicely, and I think they're doing a nice job of having a comprehensive plan on how to not just look at business retention and growth in the county, but how to track it, and how to make good decisions around it. So I'm very pleased with how that's going. And I just wanted to mention one thing today from 4 to 6 at the Elk River City Hall is a open house for the Redefine 169 project for anybody that's interested in that.
Great. Commissioner Danielowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Attended an APO meeting with the audit firm that does their annual audit. Also had a council meeting that evening. And on the 9th, my APO meeting in St. Cloud. On the 10th, attended the same investiture ceremony that Andrew spoke of, welcoming Judge Christy D. Stanislawski.
Good Polak.
I know, right? Usually with those names, it's like just pronounce it out and you're pretty close. And that was really, really a very nice event. It's amazing how family and friend focused that it is. So it was very, very good event to see happen. And I think she'll make an amazing judge on our bench. So, and then attended the AMC legislative update on the 13th. The 15th had the Sherburne County Sub-Coalition meeting, Substance Use Prevention, and they're getting ready to move into their sticker shock campaign that they do every year around prom time. So, and a lot of great, had a really good discussion, and I'm hoping to maybe be able to get some of the information to the board in regards to the law and the cannabis and the THC issue. It's just not as safe as they like to make it sound, so. And then also attended the Sherburne County EDA meeting, had a CMRP technical subcommittee meeting where we reviewed some proposals to move forward on the Pell process. And on the 18th, attended the Big Lake Community Fair. The 20th, the Park System meeting to discuss the asset management tool. That is going to be a very good tool going forward as to the cost to maintain our park systems and stuff and how to plan for it. So I'm excited about that one. I had lunch with the Big Lake City Administrator talking over some issues in regards to housing and other needs that the county could work with them on. And then had a few conversations with constituents through the weeks. And that was pretty much it.
Commissioner Gray.
Attended the Soil and Water Conservation Day at the Capitol with that group. We met with Senator Andrew Matthews and Representative Dowd, which was a really, I thought, very productive, both very receptive of Soil and Water Conservation District aid. They're not asking nearly as much as the counties are, but so I think it was very well received. I think it'll be a nonpartisan thing for them. Then I attended the MICA meeting that afternoon down there, which I think you were on by Zoom, Lisa. One point of interest that I found there was, and I'm not sure, maybe Bruce can touch on this, but they were saying that the governor's proposal of $30 million for county program aid was going to be a net, basically, gain because of the increase in unfunded mandates that might come through the legislature's proceedings during this year. So it's going to be a zero.
Yeah, the governor has bumped it up a bit, but to 40 million, it's my understanding. But
right, still not enough to cover the
Still.
unfunded mandates that are going to come through the pipeline. Then on that Thursday, I attended the Soil and Water Conservation monthly meeting. They've appointed a new member to replace Roger Nelson, who tragically passed away, and that's one of our own, Zach. You can pronounce his last name for me, Bruce?
Goodmorson. 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 Yep.
Goodmorson. He'll be a great addition to the Soil and Water Conservation Board. Attended this, there's another one, Stanislawski swearing in ceremony. Then we attended the AMC legislative meeting by Zoom on that morning. I also met with Tom Emmer's district manager, that's Stacy Morse. We had a good conversation in regards to Mr. Emmer's concerns and issues. I then attended the Clear Lake and Palmer Township annual meetings. Tried to get to all of them, but Santiago and Blue Hill were much more efficient in my driving capabilities to get to both of them. They got through their agendas faster than I could get there, but Palmer's meeting was very well attended. They had a huge turnout at elections and at the meeting, which was great to see, which usually doesn't happen at township meetings, but was great. Attended the Big Elk Lake Park meeting. They're gonna start some of the demolition on some of those buildings. We're gonna plan a field trip for maybe all board members to go out there to see this thing, because most of us, like I said, I've driven by there my entire life and never been on the property. So it would be good to see what's exactly what we're looking at for that, the park. I also attended the open house for ditch number 1 in the northern part of the county. I'll serve on the Joint Powers Board for the ditch with Mille Lacs in regards to that. So that was an eye-opening experience to see their process of ditch evaluation and how that will be going. Well attended. We had it at the Princeton Town Hall. It was packed. It was standing room only. I guarantee you it wouldn't have passed the fire marshal code by any means because they were all over the place, which was great to see also. And then that Thursday evening, I attended the Planning and Zoning Monthly Meeting, which we took care of. So that was my work.
Mr. Felber.
Okay, on March 8th, I went to the Metropolitan Emergency Services Board meeting. We approved additional seatbelt funding, additional EMS training funds, and acceptance for the Narcan reimbursement grant. One of the things that was brought out during the conversation about Narcan is that Greg Hayes from the MESB staff pointed out that the Narcan is definitely getting, or not, excuse me, that the fentanyl that's coming up across the border, most of it does come still from Mexico, from the cartels, is getting more powerful, and it's getting to the point where Narcan applications in the field don't actually bring the patient back because it's gotten stronger. And there's a limit to how much Narcan you can give someone because it will reach a point where too much Narcan can result in violence. So that's one of those things that is just a continuing problem. Everyone knows that opiates are a huge problem and fentanyl is a huge problem in America. I'm really glad that here in Sherburne County, we do aggressively still have a narcotics enforcement group within the Sheriff's Department and that the County Attorney's offices are aggressively pursuing these cases. It's not happening everywhere. They were hoping from the state legislature to get more funding for local EMS, hoping to get state funding for school mapping. It seems like that would be not that hard to get because having maps of the schools when first responders have to go there so they know where they're going in those big public buildings where we keep our children should be a no-brainer, but they haven't gotten that done yet. And they're hoping to get approval and funding for updating 911. The 911 system that we currently use does need to be updated to account for the increase in digital communications that we have. I also did go to the investiture for Judge Stanislawski. I thought it was really cool that they had 2 of the kids that she coached on their basketball team. 2 of those 5th graders were able to speak on her behalf. I thought that was pretty awesome. Legislative things, I'll cover that more a little bit later. The March 14th with the Community Corrections Advisory Board. We have a new adult supervision supervisor, Brent Schmidt. We have a court catch-up day coming up on April 3rd where they're going to try to catch up on these COVID-related backups that we have. That's an awfully big project to try to get done. The state is mandating that they be cleared up by July. And once again, it's kind of a problem the state created by shutting everything down, but yet the state is not really providing the funding or assistance to make sure that this problem is corrected. We're trying to get a phone application for community correction staff that they may be using in the field instead of radios. And like every place else, we are short on staff in many of our Sherburne County offices or Sherburne County divisions. The sheriff's office hoping to have enough correctional staff hired by summer in order to open up. We have parts of our jail that are still closed. And those parts of our jail are also revenue sources for the county. We want to get that done. The state DOC noticed that they are suffering from low staffing and low funding, and they're working on programs for people who are incarcerated to get their treatment started earlier, so that they are better prepared for re-entry after their period of incarceration. One of the overriding themes is that the level of crime is going up, the level of violent crime is going up, but yet a lot of the stuff that's coming from the state is to reduce periods of probation. They made the mandatory or the recommended period of probation a couple years ago, went from 10 to 15 years to 5 years for felonies. So, you know, those two things, I mean, reducing sentences for offenders and the crime going up, it's just correlative, but, you know, it's definitely something worth watching as this goes on. Tri-County Solid Waste Management Board, I went to on March 16th. There's an ongoing process for a new director for the Solid Waste Management Board, and that's participating. And that's ongoing. I participate in an interview process. The board for the Tri-County, or the executive board for the Tri-County, is elected by rotation. I was elected secretary-treasurer. Joe Persky from Sherburne County is the chair, and Scott Johnson from Benton County is the vice chair. We discussed the free breakfast and lunch program that was just approved is going to cause a lot more organic waste to go into the system. You know, that's going to be something that will be, all of us that deal with paying for solid waste are now going to have to deal with probably more solid waste because from the new program that went in, along with funding that program in the school. So that's going to be an expense for all of us down the line. Agricultural plastics is still a problem, as it turns out. We had a program where they're putting out dumpsters for people to use, different producers of agricultural plastics. Some people are having trouble separating them as required, so our actual collection of agricultural plastics from that program is down about 150 tons. So when we're talking about these problems with solid waste, it's in tonnage, it's huge numbers. There's a pilot program to see if it can be ground up and recycled. There's a number of solid waste in St. Paul. A significant one would be to ensure that all materials listed as compostable are actually compostable by current methods. That's an interesting one. And they're trying to make sure that the SCORE money that we're all collecting actually goes to SCORE and not into the general fund. The board is considering a letter of support for a grant for the Pope Douglas waste burner, and we'll be talking about that later here. Let's see, the NACO Rural Action Caucus update, we all went to that a little bit. I got an invite in my mail for the Mayors Against Illegal Gun ATF Gun Tracking Report online thing. I did sit in on that. There was good discussion about the pathways that guns use in crime and where they're at. Most are stolen. Most are recovered most are stolen or purchased through straw purchases. Most are recovered within a short period of where they were originally taken. There is an increase in homemade guns showing up in crime. Unfortunately, the solutions that they were proposing really restricted more on the lawful ownership of firearms rather than going after the offenders and making sure that they suffer penalties for their activity. I went to the township feedback session for the county land comprehensive plan because I was coming down here anyhow. There's a lot of good feedback, and we're going to be talking about that later. I was able to sit down and watch the county presentation on the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging group, so I'm caught up on that. Be watching to see how this group develops. And our constituent stuff, I'm still working on a couple of constituent concerns with roads, right-of-ways, and solid waste.
Okay. And I had a Great River Regional Finance Committee meeting. I serve on finance for that. The way library funding is determined is three-part: population, registered borrowers, and our net tax capacity. And if the library changes nothing, the levy portion for Sherburne County will go up by 0.5% if they stay with the same budget as last year. So just want to give you a heads up with that. Also attended the MICA board meeting. I believe you all get the legislative updates from MICA. Good information, lengthy but good. Central Minnesota Jobs and Training. Attended the Community and Government Relations meeting. Attended the Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services Workforce Development Board, and also their Joint Powers Board. Great River Regional Library Fund Development meeting. I also serve on fund development. They have a really robust fund development process, and they have a staff person. They are a dual. Our libraries are both a nonprofit and a government entity, so, and they are supported by counties. As you know, it comes on our levy, but the more we can fundraise, the less we would have to levy. So part of our fundraising effort, if any of you know of a business that you think would support or give a donation to the libraries. Obviously, our branches are in Big Lake, Becker, and Elk River. I don't have one on my end of the county, which doesn't mean businesses won't support that on my end of the county. But if anyone knows of a business, we're always looking to increase our business list of participation. I have little packets. You could take one and ask a business owner to consider that. Also, many of our people go to the library in St. Cloud and Monticello, according to our records. I attended the Big Lake, Elk Lake Park Development Committee, and I'm very impressed with the process that we're following and the variety of people that Gina has called to sit on that committee. We've got all the voices at the table that need to be there. I had a couple phone conversations with Representative Doubt about our bonding bills. I've met with the mayor of Princeton and the mayor of Zimmerman. Mayor of Zimmerman, we've had many conversations and many different constituent people that I've met with and through phone and meeting. And we also are working toward a congressional invite to our park sometime this summer. So working on a lot of different things behind the scenes. With that, I want to recognize that we are off schedule, so just wanted to call people's attention to that. And we will be, if we're okay without a break, I want to recommend that we'll recess our regular meeting at this point and open our Community Health Board meeting and invite Ms. Nicole Ruhoff to join us. That comes to you under separate cover, as you know. So moving now to our Community Health Board meeting. And the first item would be to review and approve the Community Health Board meeting minutes from January 17th. So I'd be open to a motion.
Madam Chair, don't we need to approve the agenda before the minutes?
Okay. Yes, I guess we need to approve the agenda. I get a little confused with all of this because, okay, so first we would need to approve the agenda for Community Health Board.
Madam Chair, I'd move we approve the agenda for the Community Health Board meeting.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Now moving on to item 2.1, to review and approve the Community Health Board meeting minutes from January 17th.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Danielowski moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Felber. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. And now item number 2.2, to receive the Community Health Services Administrator's Report.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Keisha, do you have the PowerPoint available? I have just a short update for you today. All right. One bit of good news, the Minnesota Department of Health has secured a grant for all of local public health throughout Minnesota, CDC Federal Infrastructure Grant. That will be effective once we approve that grant. It's going through our process right now, and I would expect it to be on a consent agenda for one of the following board meetings coming up. It's for about $257,000 over a 5-year period, so about $50,000 a year. With the hope that we will help, again, with workforce development in our public health infrastructure. We've had some cuts over the years, and we've definitely had some capacity issues that were pretty extensive during the pandemic. And so this is one way to help us figure out how to retain, how to train and retain our staff. So some good news there. An update on our Community Partner Awards. We have for the last few years through our SHIP grant, Statewide Health Improvement Grant, awarded community partners grants to do more work in the community in specific areas, so healthy eating, active living, well-being, and tobacco use. And so this year we did things a little bit different. We did use our SHIP grant to help fund this, but we also used some COVID recovery funds. And so we have about $100,000 going out to community partners. There were 17 awards out of 23 submissions. The majority of those were for the well-being component, so we have 11 awards in the well-being area, 4 for eating healthy, and 2 for Minnesota Moves. One tidbit that we think is really important is we really try to engage some partners we haven't worked with before, and we were able to award 5 new partners with this round of funding. As we've been moving forward with some of our annual reporting, we've been talking about the refugee population in Sherburne County, and some of the staff put together this nice grid about kind of where we've been since 2018. So looking at that, definitely 2022 was one of our biggest years of refugees. What we do know is the majority do come to the Elk River area. And I was at a meeting with a school partner this last week from District 728, and she said they have more than 20 languages spoken at their school currently. And so just thinking about how that impacts our schools and our community and our workforce, really just being cognizant of that. And we may not have all of the numbers because some people do resettle here without assistance and notification to us. So this is what we know of as of now. And I believe at my last check, we were about 30 some in the first quarter here in 2023. I did want to touch a little bit on our community health improvement plan. We've been implementing that since the summer, about July. And so we have 4 areas that we have goals in. Data is 1, structural racism is 2, lived experience 3, and historical context. We will be doing an annual report come summer just to give you some updates on where those projects are at. But certainly, I did listen to a little bit of the MINCO update, and that certainly supports our data and broadband expansion in the 3 counties areas. So we're really happy to see that. We know that impacts a person's ability to be healthy, and so that support is recognized on behalf of the public health environment. I would say we also have a couple of other updates. Our community health needs assessment was another component as part of that improvement plan, and we are about ready to launch our data books. They are very long. They are 249 pages, but I did do a little snippet of what you could expect to see in that data book. So one of the questions is about delaying mental health. So question 78 talks about, did you delay getting mental health in the last 12 months? It's broken down by those 4 categories of gender, age groups, education, and poverty level. And then we're able to compare with Benton County, Stearns County, the region, and the St. Cloud area. And we can do further data breakdown as requested, but for a high level, as part of our collaboration, this is what you'll see in the data books. All 3 counties have a data book, and then we also have a regional one as well. Question 79, again, kind of breaks it down. So if you did delay mental health support, what was your reason? And so hopefully this is helpful to the providers in the community, for us as public health, for those in the human services sector to say, you know, what kind of things do we need to have in place for people to access mental health care? So just a little bit on that. Any questions with any of the updates?
I did have one question. I'm assuming we will be getting this PowerPoint.
Yes.
Also, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, then this is an action item to receive and accept the Community Health Service Administrator's report. So I'd be open to a motion.
So moved. Chair, I would move that we accept that.
Motion made by Commissioner Falber, seconded by Commissioner Hulse.
We're just trying to get back on
You
schedule
guys got to
here.
get a flag or something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Be like a tip up.
Any other questions or comments?
Just try to keep moving.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Okay.
It's a great report.
Yes,
Appreciate
thanks,
it.
Nicole.
Yeah.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion has carried. And then don't we generally set the next date?
This is set on the annual calendar for the year, so you don't have to set it. It's pre-established.
Okay.
So you set it in January, basically,
Got
for the
it.
whole year.
Great. And another point of order, do we need to have a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance before this meeting happens? Okay. Okay, thank you. I didn't think so. So just want to make sure I'm doing this right, so we don't have to come back and do this again. So Sometimes I get a little off on things. So we will now adjourn the Community Health Board meeting, and we will take a brief recess. Where will our workshops, and now we're back on schedule, so that's great, thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, with the board's permission, we would suggest, just because of the technology use, that we stay here for the workshop.
Okay, so we will be in this room for the workshops. It is now 10:45. Let's meet back here at 10:55 for our first workshop.